Okay, we're going to be using the no script format today because I saw this video and I couldn't believe there's so many people out there that have advice for young men or want to give advice for young men as far as dating and life and the MGTOW, the red pill, the black pill, all of these channels out there giving advice but not really giving advice. They're recognizing a problem and then not providing any kind of solution for it. It's good that the problems of the younger men, the Gen Z and the Alpha, are being seen, but there's no solution. There's no way forward other than pick up something heavy, which, yeah, it's true. You need to pick up something heavy. You need to make yourself strong physically, emotionally, spiritually. But that's not how you deal with women. You have to understand women. You have to understand the cycle that you're in. We don't actually talk to men in historical context. Yes, the problems of today are different than any other time in human history, but so is every generation different than any other time in human history. History does not repeat, but it does rhyme. And to show you what I'm talking about,
it looks really risky for a young man to marry a young female right now. Of like, that looks terrifying. But the way that young Gen Zers and Gen Alphas are even wired and indoctrinated, and of the Gen Z has got a real big struggle. I see that. I see the plight of the young man, and I don't blame them for being apprehensive. And then also, I'm not against, hey, I think everybody should get in really good shape. Yeah, hey, suck it up, Buttercup, of like, let's eat clean, let's work out, let's improve ourselves. And hey, let's not be lousy at our jobs. Let's not be lazy bums. Let's climb the ladder. Let's accomplish big things. So what I'm not doing is railing against these very, very good things. I'm just saying they're good things worth doing, but they're not great things worth worshiping.
As a millennial, a fellow millennial like myself, what have been some of your, I saw a video where you said that you have been recently spending more time talking to and hearing from and learning about Gen Z and what that generation is generally going through. And it sounded like you'd had revealed to you perhaps some things that you previously were not thinking about and had some mental shifts. Can you tell me a little bit more about what you've learned about Gen Z?
Yeah, so I don't know. I feel the need to express what I've already kind of worked out in video, but of a bit of an apology to Gen Z, and I'm watching myself say that as it's a little bit odd, but I looked at my younger brother generation, Gen Z, and heard some of the comments and difficulties of like, hey, we can't get ahead, and we've got these struggles, and really. The answer for my generation was, hey, personal accountability, responsibility, dig down deep, change your stars, work hard, and no excuses. Come on, let's get after it. Let's get after it. And in the generation before us, Gen X and the boomers and the builders, it's always kind of been the same of like, hey, you're whining about finances now. That's a lot better than the builders facing an economic depression where they literally just couldn't eat. So I guess I would listen to some of Gen Z's arguments and be like, hey, man, every generation's got those struggles. You just got to make the best of it. But here's where I didn't read the terrain properly, because I think Gen Z is facing unique problems that no generation before them in American history faced. And the biggest one is dating. It has to do with women, and this one is the biggest one. The financial stuff is definitely true, because in the last couple generations, our financial future as a country, and therefore as the individual, it's way harder. Of like our parents, on a certain salary, they could buy a home and they could live especially our grandparents, they could live on one salary and have a car and do the stuff. And it was hard, but you could do it. Now you can't even do it. A young man can go get a job, work as hard as he can, and be smart and be top of his class and still not be able to get ahead. And the idea of him and his wife working full time together, saving, not eating out, they're not going to be able to buy a house for a very, very, very long time. Our financial future has been.
What he's saying here is true-ish. What he's actually talking about is the traditional method in which we're doing things. The laws, the expectations, the societal norms. If you follow the societal norms, that is absolutely true. What he's not telling you is that we don't live in a time where societal norms actually apply anymore. Feminism has done horrible things to men. It has stepped on their heads, on their necks, and emasculated them. Also, women can use the corpses of men as a ladder to climb into positions of power. Well, inadvertently, and without understanding the consequences, feminism has also freed men. It has let men off the plantation. Men are now living in a gilded cage that society has created for them, saying you have to meet these certain goals by this certain time in your life or you're a loser. Well, the door has swung open on that gilded cage. You are now free. The societal norms no longer apply, and that goes across the board. What it takes to buy a home still requires money. I mean, not going to lie about that, but you're dealing with a super cycle in finance that hasn't been seen in 80 years. And actually, we're talking more like 160 years since the Civil War. A reset of the board. Everything across the board is being reset. The Great Reset is what the World Economic Forum called it, but that was their engineered scheme. This is happening despite all of that. The US dollar is collapsing. That fate is for certain. Every fiat currency since the beginning of time, since the 1300s, has collapsed. The usual lifespan has been around 50 years. The dollar has experienced an extreme privilege by being the world reserve currency, fiat, while at the same time collapsing around the world. We have exported our inflation. Typically, fiat currencies experience hyperinflation very quickly because when governments realize all they have to do is print their wealth, that's all they do. The Weimar Republic is a good example of that. They just printed and printed and printed and devalued their currency to such a degree that it was famously said that you could take a wheelbarrow full of cash and you couldn't buy a loaf of bread. Well, we're going there. And it's not your fault. It's not my fault. My generation, Gen X. This goes all the way back to World War II, at the end of World War II. They changed the global reserve currency from the British pound to the US dollar. And ever since then, the United States government has been printing and printing and printing, illegally for the most part, up until 1972, when Nixon took us off the gold standard. Gold is supposed to be the actual backbone of our currency's wealth, but they just printed and printed and printed during the Vietnam War. All of those people that did all of that, that ruined your generation, they're all dead now. They're not even alive, because it's taken so long for that poison, that cancer, to spread throughout the entire system. But it's happening, and they know it's happening. The rise of cryptocurrency is the direct result of that. The rise of stablecoins. That is the direct result of a collapsing currency. They're getting ready for the next money to take place. This is a tremendous opportunity. You are sitting on the deck of a boon of opportunity that you don't even understand yet, because your money is actually going to be worth something. While at the same time, the people who own the most real estate, the baby boomers, who honestly, on average, own 2 homes, sometimes 3, are all going to be dying. They're leaving this planet. And that real estate has to go somewhere. That property needs to go somewhere. It's going to be sold. And it's going to happen fast. There's going to be a huge supply of real estate, meaning the price of real estate is not going to be what it is today. While the dollar valuation may look higher, it's not. The dollar is going to be worth less. So your money will actually go further when deflation takes place. Deflation is the scariest word to a banker, and they try and tell us that it is awful and terrible for us, like as if $20 to buy a month's worth of groceries is a terrible thing. But it is a good thing when it comes to investment, because you get in at the very bottom of the investment cycle. That's happening. That will happen. Quickly, actually. Between now and 2030, this is all happening. Money will not be the same as it is today in less than 4 years. Your opportunities are coming. You need to understand the life cycle.
And but the dating thing, you mentioned hypergamy. I'm on to what that is. I'm so proud to know what in the world that is, but it's terrible. It's terrible to be able to select a wife right now. That's going to be very, very difficult. I think the young Gen Zer is feeling very alone, and unless you're the top 20% of men, you are completely invisible to women. And there's frankly not much you can do about it.
I think on dating apps, it's closer to 4 or 5%.
4 or 5%. And dating apps is like, that's the reality. Not many people are going outside anymore. They're not meeting out and about. Like we used to go out and mingle more of, like, no, everyone's meeting online. And if you're not in the top 10 or 5% of dudes, you're invisible. You're a 7 and you've got your head on straight, and you can't get a 4 to swipe right on you or swipe left. I'm not on a date. I don't know which way to swipe. I'm just saying.
Right.
Like it's incredible. It's incredible. And then there's this generational divide where the young Gen Z, a lot of them are coming into faith, and they're very conservative. And the first time in American history, we have within the same generation, the men and women have nothing in common. The women are woke and godless, and the men are seeking God and conservative. Mm-hmm. And that's the same generation. How do these two get together? It's like a house divided against itself cannot stand. That's what Jesus taught us. And Abraham Lincoln quoted, a house divided against itself cannot stand. Well, men and women in Gen Z and Gen Alpha are completely ideologically opposed, antithetical ideologies. And so the whole generation is a house divided. How do you marry? And so
Now, when it comes to dating and women and what this gentleman, I honestly can't remember what his name is now, but he talks about how women and men ideologically are completely different now. That happened before, during the Roaring 20s, actually. During the Roaring 20s, women responded and acted very similar to what women do today. It wasn't really, the only difference is it's on social media and you can see it. It's in plain view. But the hypergamy during the 1920s was off the charts. Women were whoring around for the, next big deal, the next billionaire or millionaire. And when it all came crashing down in 1929, women came back. Reality came and hit them right in the face. A lot of women went to extraordinary lengths to try and hide their history, hide their body count, because, well, they'd been whoring around. Women do not marry who they want. They marry who they can. Men marry who they want. Men are the gatekeepers to the relationship. Women are the gatekeepers to the bedroom. What I'm telling you now, men, hold the gate. Because women will come back. Especially the generation that's happening right now. They will come back. If at all, by your choice. Right now, there is a whole generation of young women that are screaming towards 30 years old, where sometime in the middle of the night between age 30 and 35, they get a visit from the ghost of Christmas future, where their vision and their understanding of living in the rest of their lives with a dusty vacant womb and a house full of cats scares them to death. And that's when they get desperate. They get really desperate. And you, young man, depending on where you are in life, can either choose to take on that in your life, that agent of chaos, or you can choose the younger girls. While you're in your 30s, mid-30s, even early 40s, you're looking at the 22, 23, 20-year-old. That's your choice. They don't have that choice. Don't look at the women today as being something that you need to acquire. They're not worthy. When their body count is in the double digits or triple digits, they are unworthy. Stop lowering yourself to that. You don't need a woman to be complete. You can do it yourself. As a matter of fact, you should. You won't be satisfied with your life no matter what unless you do. And people get upset when I say that women are unworthy. That's math. I'm not talking about value as a person necessarily. I'm talking about numbers. There's a book called The Book of Numbers, The Return on ROI. This book is an excellent read. Should be mandatory reading for every man over the age of 13. Truly understand exactly what's going on. By their account, and these are actual studies that have been taken place, that 95% of women between the ages of 18 and 50 are unworthy of marriage. 95%. Only 5% of women are actually worthy. So it's true, not all women, but 95% of women. And that includes women that are currently married. And you can tell that simply by the divorce rate. 82% of divorces are initiated by women. These women are unworthy of marriage, yet they're married. Ruining lives, ruining men, ruining children, ruining their families, largely because they get bored. They had an image in their mind based off of a Disney princess movie of what life was going to be like. Didn't happen, so they get divorced. Well, men are understanding this. They're seeing this. Don't worry about the women. Worry about yourself right now. Get strong. Pick up something heavy. In my books, I actually put forth this idea that if you can't afford to buy and maintain a new Corvette, you have no business trying to start a family. Really. A Corvette costs $20,000 a year to buy and maintain, with payments, insurance, gas, regular maintenance. About $20,000 a year, which sounds a lot, and it is. However, you want to start a family, you're looking at $40,000 a year. If you can't do a Corvette on your own, you have no business starting a family. Because if you fail at doing the Corvette, who cares? You get a boo-boo on your credit report. You know, that's it. You do it with a family, that is generational destruction. Going in half-cocked, doing that sort of thing is irresponsible. It's much better to buy the car, buy the Corvette, than it is to try and start a family. Just on the math. So, my suggestion, the solution, do something for yourself. Do something that improves yourself. Jordan Peterson says, pick up something heavy. This is true. Fight a dragon. That's the Corvette. Fighting a dragon. And in the meantime, you're driving around, you actually improve your visual resume, which is a status symbol. Other people around automatically, by genetic programming, elevate you to a higher status. You get respect. So the Corvette actually serves a multi-purposes, and you'll understand that once you actually buy it. However, you need to pick up something heavy. Not just physically, you need to do it spiritually, emotionally, and mentally. Look at the world as it truly is, rather than the way that everyone's trying to scare you. Life is hard. It's always been hard. Every generation has its own struggles. Yours, however, is different in that your struggles now aren't really struggles. They're opportunities that have yet to mature. And they won't mature unless you're ready for it, unless you're prepared. You have a little nest egg set aside for an investment, small investment. Invest in cryptocurrencies while they're at their lowest, because they're going to screech towards the stratosphere in the not very distant future. You know, my personal favorite is XRP, because it is going to be the backbone of world trade. It's like investing in the railroad while the railroad was still being built. The Carnegies, the Rockefellers, the original men of Wall Street, the robber barons, they got their money by investing in the railroad. You have that opportunity right now. You just have to see it for what it is. Recognize the cycle that we're in. We're at the end of the fourth turning. If you don't know what that is, buy the book, The Fourth Turning. It was written in the late 90s, and it's more important today than it was then. You have a tremendous amount of opportunity that you don't even see yet. What you see is a struggle. What you see is the death of the old system. Stop playing the game of the old system. You are free to make up the rules. Instead of doing symmetric bets with a new job or a gig, a side hustle, you do 10 of them, an asymmetric bet. You do 10 of them, 7 of them turn to crap, and the rest of them make you rich. Be smart. Put it all out there. It will work out. I guarantee it. Because we are at the end of this awful, awful system that has been thrust upon us my whole life, and you won't even recognize by the time you're my age, because it won't be there. You'll remember, oh yeah, I remember back in the day they wanted you to get married. Things like that will seem foreign. So don't feel disheartened. A lot of these people that talk to young men, they see the problem. which is good, but they don't have any solutions because they're not looking at the historical patterns. They're not looking at the cycles. They just see the problem the way that you see it. And they're just as frightened as you are because they don't have an answer.